Hello, everybody. I know this is a bit unexpected, but I kind of have a special announcement to make. Mogeko's kind of been in the dark for a while, and recently I've noticed he's poked his head out a few times to reveal some of his latest works. Basically, it seems right now he is working on 4 different things at once. One, he's been upgrading his character page, at least as far as last month is concerned. He's also working on the Wadanohara manga, which is at its first volume right now. He's also working on the Obsolete Dream manga, which is good for him. And finally, he is doing a Grey Garden remake. And frankly, I'm kind of floored by this announcement, especially when we were promised a Carnival Rhythm and a Mogeko Castle Gaiden. These 2 games are supposed to be coming out sometime in 2016. It may be late 2016 for all I know. I mean, the Wadanohara game came out at around December 21, so anything could happen, but still, the fact that we're getting a Grey Garden remake probably puts those 2 games in the back burner for now. But yeah, there have been a lot of questions running through my head ever since I discovered that this Grey Garden HD remake is actually going to be a thing. Namely, how is this going to affect my current Grey Garden with Voices production? Because chances are there's going to be parts of it that are going to be rendered outdated and obsolete, and that's going to suck for me. Probably the first question that has come into my mind is, should I hold off on doing the Grey Garden with Voices until the remake is completed and released? Probably not. The big question is going to be, how long will it take for Mogeko to release the Grey Garden with Voices? I'm guessing that since he just revealed this news just now, that it's probably going to be released sooner rather than later, but it could be a month, it could be 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe more. Who knows? And even once that gets released, how long will it take for a VG person to translate the game and release it in English? That's another big question mark. So, holding off on the Grey Garden with Voices is probably not the smartest thing to do right now. Should I re-record? Probably not. I have already recorded the footage for the Grey Garden with Voices. I have scripted the Grey Garden with Voices, and most of the actors and actresses working under me have turned in their recordings. I mean, I don't think it would be fair for them to redo all their lines, let alone, having me go back and re-record everything from scratch, especially since, when I record, the banter is based on those recordings, So, the other option, another option, probably a more realistic option, would be to, to continue from the remake standpoint once the game is actually released. I could keep going, and then once the remake is done, I could, release what's left of it as remade footage. But then again, you got the banter being recorded, and then there's the question of how much do I lose in that? How much would have to be changed? So that's probably not going to be a viable option either. I think the best thing for me to do right now is to maintain my course, to just carry on as if there is no remake, and when the remake comes out, see what happens, what has changed, and then try to figure out how I can incorporate it into my show. Maybe I'll incorporate bits and pieces. Maybe I won't incorporate anything. Who knows? We'll just have to see on that one. The other key question here is, what has actually changed? What is going to change in this this Grey Garden remake that is going to be done? Well, for one thing, graphics. The graphics are kind of reminiscent of what Carnival Rhythm is going to look like. And we were also promised some extra bonuses. What are those bonuses? Well, who can say? All I can do is speculate at the moment. I could probably also tell you what I'd like to see in this remake. Ideally, I'd like to see Diallo and Chilan joining the party, or at least having some actual combat moves. Something besides Diallo Punch and Chilan Punch. I kind of voiced my complaints on the 8th and 9th episodes that they don't really do much, even though they're kind of like part of the main 6. It's almost like having My Little Pony Friendship with Magic and then having Fluttershy and Rarity stuck in the background. You know, it kind of sucks. I'd also like to see what the Flame Demons can do. What will Amouth and Poemi, how will those two attack besides using magic fire? How is Rita able to demolish powerhouses like Wodas and Grora and Otter and Arbus, you know, but then she gets her ass kicked by Yosafire and her gang. If anything, I'd like to see more improvements on the RPG combat system, not just a new coat of paint, because I think the combat is going to be the major element that needs to be improved upon. One of my big concerns is that, okay, here's the thing. The Mogeko Castle voices, for that I used the remake, and that was based off a game that was made in 2012. The Mogeko Castle remake was made in 2014. Very improved graphics, but one thing they removed was the combat. I mean, I kind of understand Mogeko wanting to remake Mogeko Castle. It was his first game ever, and the 2012 version looks like shit compared to what he did with the 2014 remake. I don't like that he removed combat in Mogeko Castle, but I can understand why he did it. The combat is actually pretty superfluous. It didn't need to be there. So if he was able to make a game where there was no combat, I can understand that. But for the Grey Garden, I could see him removing combat, but I think it would suck. I mean, there are monsters to go after, there are bad guys to be fought, and one of the endings hinges on a final boss battle. So I don't know how, if he's planning to remove combat entirely, I don't know how he'd do that without fucking up his story a bit. I really think that getting rid of combat would be unwise and unsound, but the thing is, Mogeko, from what I understand, Mogeko prefers to tell a story over designing an actual game. And when I think about that, I think of that one Mexican girl from the taco commercial, where I think they're arguing over like tacos, no, burritos, tacos, burritos, and the little Mexican girl's like, why not both? That one. I guess another question is, why does the remake bother me so much? I guess it's one thing to go back and remake the game after a long absence, but the thing is, The Grey Garden was originally made 4 years ago. I believe it was released around 2013, I want to say. I'll have to look back on that and check. But personally, I take to heart the advice of an abridger known as HBI2K. Basically, sometimes you just gotta say, I've done the best with what I could do, with what I had at the time, and move on. And personally, I think Mogeko should be moving on. I think the remake is gonna look good, but I think it's a mistake. I mean, honestly, my heart is set on Mogeko Castle Gaiden and Carnival Rhythm, not so much the Wadanohara manga and the Grey Garden remake. And, I mean, I can understand him doing the Wadanohara manga because that is begotten of extreme popularity and it prints money. Mogeko's actually going to be selling the manga and making something of it. So next question is, what am I going to be expecting from this game? Honestly, while I'd like this particular Grey Garden to be more like an actual RPG with powerful enemies, skills to build up, sub-quests, challenging fights, and so forth, I know that's going to be a lot to ask for what I think is going to be a one-man show. So what I think we're going to be getting out of this, a game that has a fresh coat of paint, some interesting bonus information peppered within the story. We might learn a bit more about the Grey Garden, the situation with it. If we're lucky, maybe we might even get a couple of new characters making an appearance. I mean, who knows? I think that's the best I can expect out of it right now. Which brings me to my final question on this. Will I enjoy the game once it comes out? Probably I will. Although not as much as most. And probably not for the same reasons. I mean, the Mogeko Castle game, that was a remake, but that was my first real look at it. So I'm going to be looking at the Grey Garden a lot differently since I've already played the game. I'm already making a production on it. I know most of the ins and outs of that game itself, so I would be looking at how it is different than its predecessor. Plus, it really depends on how the game is handled. I think the story itself is good. There's a lot of strong characters. I know that the music and sound effects will not change at all. Those are RPG Maker music and sound effects. So there's not going to be any real changes on that part. Now, if Mogeko is able to go out and improve the combat mechanics, I will be having a grand old time. However, if it's removed, I'm going to be pretty pissed off. I'm not going to lie. I think part of what I liked about the Grey Garden is the combat mechanics, and I kind of enjoyed the fights, but let's be honest here, they were pretty watered down. I think at the very least, this HD remake of the Grey Garden will probably give me more answers and hopefully a bigger glimpse of the sequel and the prequel that may come up. Well, with that being said, I'm going to be awaiting for the release of the Grey Garden remake. I am looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see where we go from there.